Is it basketball season yet? Yes! Yes is the answer to that question, and that is no offense to football, which is still coming down the home stretch here. Got to recover from a tough game against Pittsburgh, but plenty to be done and observed there. But basketball is here, and that will be the focus today on Syracuse Sports. We welcome you. My name is Brent. It's presented by Crouse Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for SU Athletics. We've got plenty of questions from our Syracuse Sports Insiders and predictions and opinions, because that's what you guys do. You send us your great questions, opinions, analysis. What do you want to know about Syracuse sports from yours truly and those at syracuse.com that cover Syracuse University sports? Our Syracuse Sports Insiders have direct text message access to me. That's tough to say sometimes. Text message access. There we go. To me, you can text me anytime. What you want to know, just want to talk some ball, just want to get a delicious recipe for perhaps a beef stew on Sunday. I could probably help you out with that. That means you text me. I not only can text you individually, but we send a group text to everybody that gets all the latest information, analysis, opinion, thoughts during games. When the podcast comes out, the latest episode of Syracuse Sports, you guys get it first. And get the heads up when the post-game shows are coming on the air. There's just so many great benefits to being a Syracuse Sports Insider, and we would love for you to join the group today. All you have to do is text the word orange to 315-847-3895. Hit that link as well. Joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. Joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. We're going to answer plenty of your questions and comments a little bit later on here in the pod, but Mike Waters is going to join me, the legendary Hall of Fame Syracuse.com beat reporter for Syracuse basketball. We've watched 2 exhibition games, which means we know everything there is to know about the upcoming 2024-25 Syracuse basketball season, right? Which is still weird to say that we are in the year 2024 and we'll be into the year 2025. Like, where are the flying cars? Like, that just sounds so futuristic to me, but that's where we are. And of course, we don't know everything. If anything, I have more questions after watching a couple exhibition games, but I pared it down to 5 questions for Mike Waters. I'm going to ask him those questions. I'm going to answer those questions as well, and you'll hear that conversation coming up, plus a little back and forth with our Syracuse Sports Insiders on the way. Couple of reminders, though. We still do have plenty of Syracuse football to discuss. We'll have the post-game show following Syracuse, Virginia Tech. It's a noon kick on Saturday. We don't know what kickoff time will be for Boston College, the dreaded 6-day hold from the ACC, but after each Syracuse football game, we hop on, we talk with you, we analyze what happened on the field. In this case, it will be back at the JMA Wireless Dome for the first time in a month. Syracuse was gone for the whole month of October, so November is here. That has not been a good month of football. Syracuse is 12-32 since they got into the ACC in the month of November. They got to flip that narrative, and we'll talk about everything Syracuse, Virginia Tech after that game. And yes, our post-game shows will include basketball. I will be on. Now, you got to change the channels a little bit here. The Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page on Facebook, SYR Basketball on X or Twitter, if you will. But YouTube is the same. Syracuse Orange Sports, our YouTube channel where you watch live, that stays the same. But just remember to make the adjustments, and I'll send you the link as a Syracuse Sports Insider so you know directly where to go. But I will be doing a post-game show pretty much after every Syracuse basketball game. There might be 1 or 2 along the way where we won't do post-game shows, just, scheduling and things of that nature. But certainly we'll be doing one Monday night after the Orange open the regular season against Lemoyne. So that is coming. The post-game shows are all happening. And just a reminder that we're looking for your original music to highlight here on Syracuse Sports. And we've got a fun one today. So Fran Brown walks into one of his recent press conferences and he's got his earbuds in. And I thought he was like on the phone, like literally got his earbuds in right to the podium. I should have filmed this here. And he takes off his earbuds and he says he was listening to some original music made by one of his players. And that player is Nakai Johnson. Nakai is a freshman walk-on for Syracuse. He came to Syracuse from Newburgh Academy, and he's a great kid. I talked to him on Wednesday. earlier. I think it was Tuesday earlier this week, and we talked some music. His dad was a recording artist, and he is at Syracuse and really wants to get into that world. So when Fran came in, he said one of his players is doing some original music. It's like he knew that we are featuring this on Syracuse Sports, and we want your original music to play and highlight. And I talked to Nakai, and he said, yeah, go right ahead. So you're going to hear a little bit of some music that he produced. All the information is in the show notes on where you can find him on YouTube and Spotify and the whole thing. And you can hear some original music made by a member of your Syracuse Football Orange. How about that? But we want to hear your original music as well. All the info is in the show notes on how you can get in touch with me. We'll highlight your original music here on the show. So a little bit of a clip in between segments here, and then we'll play the whole song, a selected song, at the end of the podcast. So how about that? Let's get a little bit from current Syracuse football walk-on Nakai Johnson, and then Mike Waters will grill him with 5 questions.
Nice to meet you, Hollywood.
So I did not tell Mr. Waters this, but Mike is an established veteran. He is a man of many talents, and I feel like he can handle this. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Do you accept these terms?
Sure. With a little trepidation. I'm assuming they're about basketball.
We'll find out.
Okay. All right.
Here we go.
Yeah. Have at it.
Question number 1. We had 2 different lineups in the exhibition games, Mike, but ultimately, what will be the starting 5? And I will give you mine first. J.J. Starling, Jaquan Carlos, Eddie Lampkin, Donnie Freeman, Chris Bell. What say you?
I totally agree with you. We have not seen the starting lineup at the start of either of the exhibitions yet. Adrian Autry's been mixing guys in there, looking at different rotations. I think he's probably also maybe stoking a little competition in practice and keeping everybody interested. But I think even if we don't see it on Monday at Lemoyne, I think that's your 5 as we go forward on into the season.
Well, that's what I think, Mike. I mean, no offense to the mighty Dolphins, who, by the way, shot 18 3-pointers in an exhibition game on Wednesday night. Syracuse had 15 in their last exhibition game the other night. So get ready for what could be a game with a lot of 3-pointers. But I feel like you can still, and I don't want to use this word, but it's the one that comes to mind, experiment with the lineup against Lemoyne. I feel like you don't have to have everything buttoned up going into that game. It's a game that I feel like you can still, and I think you hit the nail on the head, push the competition a little bit. Just send that message right to the end. Who wants this? And see what that best lineup is. I thought we'd see that lineup in Syracuse's second exhibition against Slippery Rock, but when they line it up Monday night against Lemoyne, that's what I think they're going to see. I agree with you. Question number 2. I think we've been asked about this more than anything, Mike, so we might as well tackle this one. Is Chance Westry going to play any kind of role on this team? Poor Chance. He's been snake bitten. He had the injury at Auburn. He had the injury here. He comes back for this season. He's had what's been described as an illness that has kept him out of preseason practice and the 2 exhibition games. Now he comes out for that initial warm-up, but doesn't go through the kind of official warm-up for the team. There are precautionary is the word we keep hearing here. But I want to bring it up, Mike, because if he's going to play a role on this team, kind of jumping in the pool now, he's a little behind the 8 ball. It's going to be a little tougher for him to do. So you got to wonder when he's healthy, if just talent wins out and he finds his way into the rotation somehow.
Oh, how much of a role we can expect him to play at this point. I mean, first of all, we just got to get him on the, back on the court. You think about how much practice time he has missed due to this illness, key practice time leading right up to the start of the season, and it's so important for him. It would be important for any player, but more so for Chance, because you're talking about a player who didn't play last year due to a knee injury. And his previous season, his freshman year at Auburn, essentially, I think it was the first week of January was the last time he played before they shut him down with a knee injury. So it's a kid coming off 2 knee injuries, trying to regain confidence in his body and his knees, figuring out what he can do, that everything's good to go, shaking off a whole lot of rust. And now he's not even getting the usual run-up time. So, even if he starts practicing today, when can we really expect him to be ready to go and be in game shape? They only have 3 games. I don't want to act like I'm looking past the first 3, because I'm not. Because one of them's Colgate, and Colgate, beat him 2 years running before last season. So, and last season probably should have beat him. Colgate was up big. So
that's right.
So let's not look past those 3 games mentally. But again, if Chance can't go in those 3, then you're into the trip to Brooklyn, Texas Tech, blah, blah, blah. You got the trip to Tennessee, you got Georgetown, then an ACC opener against Notre Dame. Time's running short for him to get opportunities to get in and just kind of get up to speed. So I don't know.
I think Autry said it best. There's a difference between being ready and being in game shape. And there's just no way that he is in game shape at this point. And you brought up a great point with the schedule. Like, it's going to be hard to be like, yeah, let's put you in against Texas and see what you can do. So the mystery continues, but he is there. He is on the team. This is not an urban legend. He's there. We've seen him. We've talked to him. He is a part of the team. Question number 3, Mike. And I worded it this way on purpose, because you can word these things different ways, but I use this word in particular. Who is the most intriguing new guy? And to me, the most intriguing new guy is Eddie Lampkin, because there's just so much he can do. You put him in the paint. If you don't double him, he can score. He's a terrific passer. He stepped back and hit a 3 against Slippery Rock. It was technically his first career 3. It doesn't count because it's an exhibition game, but it's the first time he's done it in a game scenario. So he's kind of got that in his back pocket. When I talked to him on media day, he said he's the best talker in the country. And I don't think that was just trash talk. I think he's very, he likes to kind of direct traffic out there a little bit, tell his teammates what he's seeing out there. Certainly the story in the offseason of his NIL contract and just, I think, he defines the word intriguing to me. He's a chef, right? He's making meals for Carmelo Anthony. Like, this kid, every day I get on Instagram and I'm like, what's Eddie Lampkin up to today? And I think that is translated now to the basketball court now that we've seen him a couple times. So who's your most intriguing new guy?
It's a lot of intrigue with this team, with 7 newcomers, 4 transfers, 3 freshmen. We had to do as a staff, you're a part of it. We did some of these questions there. I don't know if we said intriguing. I think we used most interesting newcomer. Now, the most important player in that category, I put one of the newcomers. I put Jaquan Carlos.
Yeah.
But if we're going to switch it around a little bit and not say most important and say intriguing, Eddie Lampkin's up there. And I think that's who I put when I said most interesting newcomer. But I tell you what, one of those maybe having buyer's remorse on that, you got to remember Donnie Freeman's sitting there. And here's a McDonald's All-American, potential one and done. And we've watched these first 2 exhibitions, and man, I mean, the potential. This kid just oozes potential.
He really does.
And, how much of that will he realize this season? And, if he can just come close to realizing, most of it, he will be amazing to watch. Just a lot of fun to watch it. 6'9", bordering 6'10", long and athletic, can shoot the 3. Boy, I'm this close to just wanting to change my choice and go with Donnie Freeman, because he will be intriguing, man. But
there's no question.
A lot of Eddie's important too, because they're going to run a lot of offense through him. He's a big guy that can move him away from the basket. So, I just think it's such an interesting team, and so much of it is new to us. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We're going to be asking a lot of questions early on, and it'll be interesting to see how quickly they can answer some of those questions, and maybe get a few wins under their belt before New Year's. Wins, because they got to do well against this non-conference schedule if they want to have hopes of making the tournament.
Well, there's a lot of choices there. Like you said, Mike, you bring in, we're still learning Peter's last name here. I believe it's Mostrovich or some form of that.
I think it's more like Meisterovich.
Meisterovich, yes. Yeah. We're still getting used to that. But, I mean, here you got a guy drops in right before the semester starts from France. His dad's a pro player. He's got a great story. Lucas Taylor and Jair Davis both played important roles at their schools. Davis was a captain at Delaware. I think Elijah Moore could work his way into a right off the bench role. I think he could be like the second best 3-point shooter on this team right now behind Chris Bell. So there's a lot of great choices there, and I think we're going to continue to see how that develops as we go. But on to question 4, Mike. Now, again, think how it's worded here. If you were Adrian Autry, what's your biggest concern with this team right now? And I'm going to say an obvious one. And typically this is a little behind at the beginning of the year, but I'm not sure how good defensively this team is. I've saw some things out there that their best defense is going to be their offense for a while before the light bulb comes on here. So I know that's kind of a broad answer here. I don't want to pick on anybody specifically, but I think defense is something they really got to work on. If you
totally
were
agree
Autry,
with you.
That's your choice too? Yeah.
I would have had 2 choices.
Okay.
The 2 that stand out to me is, first of all, defense, as you mentioned. It was a little troubling to see Clarion shoot 47% against them the other day in the first exhibition. Now, they looked a little better against Slippery Rock, but I'll caution everybody, that was a Slippery Rock team playing without 3 starters. So you would think you'd be pretty good against a Division II team minus 3 starters. So, and also, they went 3 of 27 from 3-point range. You just listen, Division I teams are going to shoot better than that. Slippery Rock missed a lot of open threes. I know when the coaches went and broke, it's hard to convince players that they're not playing the type of defense they need to when the other team is just missing so badly. But I know when they broke down that film, there were a lot of open threes, and Slippery Rock's reserves might miss them, but Division I teams, guys, are not. So the other area is rebounding.
Yeah.
And I think it's always something. And until we get a Syracuse team that is just a dominant rebounding team, I think we're all going to have this PTSD of bad rebounding teams. And, it's going to be just a problem until it's not. And maybe it won't be a problem, but it has been for several years in a row. And so until it's not, I'm going to put it on my list at least to start the year.
Lampkin certainly helps in that department, but you said it earlier with Freeman, and that's what the prevailing thought I have with him as a player. Man, when the light bulb comes on and he gets it, and he gets the speed of the game and everything, he is just going to be a force, and that could be a part of how he helps. When Davis and Taylor are out there, just even the guards, there was a lot of Slippery Rock took 27 threes. They only made 3 of them. There's a lot of long rebounds, so you kind of have to get used to that. Not that Syracuse plays zone anymore, and they were trained to get those long rebounds, but that was an issue in that game. So, yeah, there's those 2 are almost 1 and 1A at this point. Pick your poison there. All right, Mike, 5th and final question here. Now, I'm not going to ask you if Syracuse is going to make the NCAA tournament, because I'm not going to make you make that prediction, although we were asked to make that prediction on
we had to do it.
Syracuse.com. And we had to do it. So go read that on syracuse.com. What I'm going to ask you is this team built to make the NCAA tournament? Do they have the goods to make the NCAA tournament?
I think they do. And that's hard to say with all these new faces, with four transfers, 3 freshmen. It's hard to say, but I think they do. I love adding Carlos at the point. A guy who's going to run the offense, distribute the ball. He's experienced. He's a leader. I really think he's going to help this team. Lampkin in the middle will be interesting. He doesn't get off the ground a lot. He's not going to jump up and block shots. You look at his career numbers. He's not a shot blocker. You hope that he's going to be big enough, strong enough to carve out space and help you rebounding. So we'll see how he does. Chris Bell, I think, is primed for a really good season as long as Syracuse can get him shots, open looks. You can't, every shot cannot be contested. So they got to work hard to get him openings. And, yes, he's shot it great in the exhibition games, but again, 2 Division II teams that they weren't with him all the time. I mean, you leave Chris Bell open in the corner, he's an 80% shooter.
He's going to make that.
So, yes, Chris Bell. JJ Starling's a key, but again, a veteran. Guys comes back. I think we can, at least count on him for a certain level. And then Donnie Freeman. And Donnie Freeman might be the X factor here. But other guys are going to have to contribute. You've mentioned a lot of them. Lucas Taylor, Elijah Moore. And boy, if you want another 3-point threat on the floor, Elijah is really looking good so far. And he's a freshman. He's got to improve his defense. He's got to be willing to come back and rebound the basketball, like you mentioned earlier. But making threes the way he has in the 2 exhibition games could be a really good way to get on the floor. So I don't know. I do think they have enough parts there. I do think they have enough talent, but the competition in the ACC is going to be fierce. And we're asking them to do something that Syracuse has not done for 3 years running.
And there is
to get to that tournament.
There's something that's out of their control too, Mike. In a sense, they're part of a league that just has not put a lot of teams in the tournament in recent years, to the point where you talked to Jim Phillips about this at ACC Media Day, and it's been a narrative the past couple of years, but particularly after last year's, like, how's the ACC only getting 5 teams? This is supposed to be, if not the best, one of the best leagues in college basketball, and by history and reputation, it certainly is, but they've come up short on that. So Syracuse, if this happens again, and they're on the cut line, they're on the bubble, and they're not, the credit's not being given for the ACC wins that they would need, they might fall short by no fault of their own, because it's not a league that has the reputation to kind of, we'll take that 7th ACC team because they have that reputation, right? So Adrian Autry said at a media day, they went 20-12 last year. He said there were 3 or 4 games last year that we needed, right? They get those 3 or 4 wins, they're at the very least in the conversation. But we're going to see how things are going to play out this year with the net rankings and how things are working in the NCAA tournament here. But at least they're aware of the issue. I always love when you get like an email from a company that, like there's a recall on your car. It's like, we're aware of the issue and we are addressing it. It's like, yeah, but I can't drive my car right now. So can we fix this, please? The ACC, they've got to fix this, Mike. You can't have only 5 teams getting in from, the supposed best league in college basketball at times.
You're right. I'll tell you what, though, Syracuse has been part of the problem the last 3 years.
They have. Yes.
Teams have come to the carrier. Ooh, I do it again, man. Teams have come to the JMA Wireless Dome and they get a win, but it hasn't been a quad 1 win.
Yeah.
That's one thing Jim Phillips and I talked about. It's like a win over Syracuse at the Dome has to be a quad 1. Syracuse has to get to that level. And some of that's work you do in the non-conference portion of the schedule. You got to do better there. Same with Louisville, Florida State, even NC State last year, if memory serves. Remember, this is an NC State team that ends up going to the Final Four. But if memory serves, Syracuse's win over NC State in Raleigh, and remember, Syracuse swept them in the regular season. I don't think that was a quad 1 win. And I know absolutely
I don't think it was.
Sure
I think you're right. Yeah.
That the win over NC State at the Dome was not a quad win. Definitely wasn't. A win at home over Miami, I think it might have been a quad 3. It's like, no, not every game at home can be a quad 1 win, but it's got to be quad 2. The league, everybody in the league, and with Syracuse included, it's like the Taylor Swift line. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Everybody's got to get better. Louisville, Florida State, Pittsburgh last year. They were so upset that they didn't get a bid to the NCAA tournament. In the non-conference, you lost at home to Missouri. Missouri went winless in the SEC. And everything. 0 wins. And you lost at home to them. That's gonna leave a mark. And so we start. You don't get to ignore what happened in the early part of the schedule anymore. You can't. It's like, because of all these teams, everyone's gotten better. All these teams are trying to get themselves to the tournament now. It's a lot different than it was 20, 25 years ago. So, the committee has to go all the way back to the beginning of the year to start, finding that little bit of space between two teams. So,
well, and you brought up the non-conference schedule, Mike. I think it's great they're playing Lemoyne, but their net ranking is going to be in the 300s, so that doesn't help you. Colgate's your second game. That has been a game that has been a quality non-conference win in recent years. Texas, St. Joseph's, Texas Tech. No, we'll see which one of those two they end up playing. In Brooklyn, does Cornell turn into a quality non-conference game? Tennessee certainly fits that description. Georgetown typically hasn't. Maryland, you get at the Barclays Center just before
that's
conference
a neutral
play
court
begins.
Game. That'll help.
That'll help. So those 3 or 4 wins that Autry's looking for, they're on the schedule. It's just a matter of can you go out and grab them? As he said at media day, I know we can take care of this by winning a few more of those games that we need.
Another thing that I've talked with Adrian about in terms of making the tournament and talking about last year, last year's team got blown out a lot. And a lot of the metrics that go into some of these rating sites and everything, and some of the sites that the NCAA selection committee uses, they look at these metrics, and these metrics can get skewed when you end up in a blowout.
That's right.
And Syracuse didn't just lose games last year. They got destroyed by Wake Forest, North Carolina, Duke, Tennessee, Gonzaga. They were all bad losses. The Wake Forest one, I think people still have nightmares over. You can lose those games, actually, if you're Syracuse. You go into the lose the game, but lose them by 8 or 9. Yeah. Do not lose by 29, and your metrics will look a little bit better. So, you want to get a few more wins than you did last year. That would really help you. But another way to help yourself is just stay in games. Keep them close.
I said this to Mike the other day, and I get to invoke the line again, but Syracuse does not want to find itself in the situation of the great philosopher Sidney Dean from the movie White Men Can't Jump, when he says, you either smoke or you get smoked, and you got smoked. So Syracuse can't be in that third category if they want to stay in the conversation. That's a great point, because that sticks out like a sore thumb, even when the metrics are involved here. Well, there you go, Mike. I told you this would be easy, right? You were all worried what kind of questions are going to be there, but not bad, right? You're okay. Everything's good. Just some hoops talk.
I managed. I survived, I think.
You did
I
it.
hope. You
even quoted Taylor Swift. I mean, come on. What more could you ask for from this podcast?
Who had that on their bingo card?
Not me. Not at all. Didn't know Mike was a Swiftie. You got the friendship bracelets on there, or?
No, I'm just my watch. It's
all
just,
right, well,
so
we'll have to get some of those for you.
I don't have
thank
friends.
You, Michael. Yes, you do. I'm your friend. Okay, Mike Waters and I answered questions. Now we get to answer some of your questions and react to some of your comments here. Some great stuff in from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. And this is one of the great benefits of being a Syracuse Sports Insider. We only highlight your comments on this podcast. We don't highlight comments from social media. If you come up to me at Wegmans and say, hey, Brent, got a question for you. Can you answer that on the pod? No. You have to be a Syracuse Sports Insider to get your questions highlighted on this show, including James L., who says, my humble prediction, if Chance Westry can win the backup point guard position, Syracuse will have a very high ceiling. But yes, as Mike Waters and I just talked about, will Chance Westry even get an opportunity on this team? But James is right if he can get into the flow of things and get into game shape sometime soon. From Jeff N., having an inside presence, who's also a good passer, is going to be huge for this team. It really is, Jeff, because, and Jeff adds this, by the way, and they also seem to have multiple options of catch and shoot marksmen, should be fun. So first on Eddie Lampkin, I brought it up with Mike, but bears repeating. He gets the ball in the paint, you got to make a choice. Dude is 6'11", 265. He's going to win a lot of one-on-one matchups getting to the basket. He can shoot right up until the free throw line. Saw him hit a 3 against Slippery Rock. I don't want to see Eddie Lampkin taking a lot of threes, frankly, but if you leave him open and he can stop and pop, he can hit that. But Eddie is such a great passer. I don't think I've seen as good of a big man pass the ball for Syracuse. I don't even know who to compare him to because he's so unique in how he does it. He thinks like a point guard, and the real advantage for Syracuse there is, to steal a football term, the want to. Eddie wants to be a good passer. He embraces being a good passer. Pardon me. So that is such an X factor for this team. And per your second point, so certainly Chris Bell, is a catch and shoot marksman. I think JJ Starling is better at that, but Elijah Moore, that's his role. If he can come off the bench and hit threes and make defenses worry about him when he's out there. He was one of the best three-point shooters at the high school level a year ago. Adrian Autry said it the other night. We need him. We want him. He's got to carve out that role. I'm paraphrasing what he said at his press conference, but he was asked about Elijah Moore. And he said, yeah, he's got to play a role on this team because they need that added three-point shooter. From Adam S., with so much depth and great athletes, could you see them press more? I remember the great Georgetown teams doing that because they had Ewing to protect the rim. That's a great question. I don't know what Autry's philosophy on that is. Jim Boeheim's philosophy on that, and mind you, was a zone coach right to the end. But Jim Boeheim always saw the press as desperation. You're down by 8 to 10 points. You got to get back in it. You got to generate some defense to create some possessions. I didn't see a lick of zone defense in exhibition play. I don't know what Autry's philosophy will be on the press, but I don't know if they can do it. Naheem McLeod's just not fast enough to keep pace when he's out there. Eddie, 6'11", 265, big dude. You're asking him to do a lot there. You need some speed. Now, you can have somebody protect the rim, of course, but I don't know if this is a team that's going to embrace the press and can protect in the press. So, great question. I don't know. I'd like to see it, but it feels like Autry kind of feels the same way, that if you're pressing, it's because you've got to change tempo. It's not always desperation. Sometimes you're just throwing a curveball at the other team, but something to keep an eye on for sure. Gonzo just says, plain and simple, we'll score points. But can we defend and, more importantly, rebound? Yeah, those were the two concerns that Mike and I brought up here. It's 1 and 1A to me. Defense, as we were just talking about with the press there with Adam's question, they have to lean into it. They have to embrace it. I have not seen this team embrace defense. A couple of guys, it was certainly encouraging to hear Jaquan Carlos say that his game is predicated on defense as much as he's been a pure point guard for this team in exhibition play. He had 16 assists in the two exhibition games, and I talked to him after the Slippery Rock game, and he said defense is something that he prides himself on. He leans into it, and more importantly, and I think this is a message he has to send to the rest of the team, that's what you can control. You can fully control how hard you play defense. So they do have to lean into that. And the rebounding thing, I think it'll be better because you added Davis, you add a Lucas Taylor. Eddie certainly has to get some rebounds just by sheer size and force in the paint, but you got to get after rebounds. And I now exhibition plays, not always the best telltale here, but I don't see this team getting after it on rebounding and defense. That'll come. That's usually the last thing to come. Autry admitted they worked a lot on offense in the offseason, so maybe he's just got to get him in that mind frame. You know, whenever you hear Coach Jack, the women's basketball coach, talk, defense is always the first thing out of her mouth, and you can see that in the way they play. You got to get this team to embrace that. That's half the battle, right? From Frank, says, my prediction, 24-7 for the Orange. Sweet 16. My official predictions are up on syracuse.com, so you guys can see that, but I debated with the record. I really went between 22-9 and 23-8. You can really talk me into 23-8. Frankie went with 24-7. I do think they make the tournament. I mean, flat out. I do think they make the tournament. It's a little dangerous given the ACC's precarious position in recent years. You got to win 3 or 4 more games. So technically I had 22-9. That's only 2 more wins than what they had last year. But all told, I think they will make the tournament. It might be close. They might have to go to the ACC tournament and pick up a couple insurance wins. Remember, it's the quality of the wins you pick up. And I do think that Syracuse will have enough quality wins between non-conference play and ACC play that they're going to get in there. What the record is, I mean, we can haggle about that, but Frankie's got a nice strong run for the Orange there. From Jack, who says, Red says he wants to play all 12 guys this year, but when it comes to crunch time in a game, which 6 or 7 do you want to see on the court? And see, Jack asks what is, I think, a better question than who's your starting 5. It's not who's your starting 5, it's who's your key 6, right? Who are the guys on the court when it matters most? Now, sometimes it's matchups. And late in the game, you've got people in foul trouble. So that's when you do have to go deeper on the bench. If you've got somebody that can't get out there because they have 4 fouls and you got to go to that, let's say J.J. Starling's in trouble and you got to get another guard out there. So that's either Westry or Kyle Cuff. Like that's just, but you want your leader on the floor, but you're going to have to call on people to be in this key 5 or 6 because of foul trouble. But ideally, okay, certainly Jaquan Carlos, it is J.J. Starling, it's Eddie Lampkin. I think Donnie Freeman is going to work his way into this conversation. Just the raw oozing talent he has. He's just got to get used to the speed of the game and some things that he's still, remember, he spent a summer in international basketball. It's a different court structure. It's a different mind frame. He told me on media day that he's still making that adjustment and getting there, but I'm going to put him on the list. Chris Bell has to be on the floor. And I'll tell you who my 6th guy is, Jair Davis. He has shown he's willing to and can shoot the 3. He can rebound. He can mix it up in the paint. I like that he's got experience. Not that Delaware is on the level of the ACC, but he was a captain there. And he has been in some tight games. And he brings a presence. Lucas Taylor as well. He's really fun to talk to. He's very mature. He just feels like one of those players that it's almost like he's been there and done that. So I would put him right on the cusp of that. We'll see if Pitar can get in the mix there. He's got international experience. He's only 19. He's a freshman. People keep referring to him as a transfer. He's technically a freshman at 19 years old. But Jaquan, JJ, I'm just checking my notes so I don't miss anybody. Eddie, Chris Bell, Elijah Moore, and let's see. Who are we missing? Donnie Freeman. Yeah, Jaquan, JJ, Eddie, Donnie, Chris, Elijah. That's my top 6. If I had to push it to a 7th, Davis would be in there. And yeah, I'll say Taylor, even though he's kind of new. But again, a lot of this depends on matchups, who you need out there, who's in foul trouble. And Red has said it. Jack brings it up. He wanted to do it last year. Injuries prevented him from doing it last year. Departures, Benny Williams, prevented him from doing it last year. He does want to play a deep rotation for the most part. But when it comes down to it, down by 6, 5 minutes to go, you need that best core out there. I think it falls to those guys, which is pretty similar to the starting 5. That's not always the case, but in this situation, I think it is. As always, amazing questions, comments, and everything in between from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. We would love for you to join the conversation, to join the group, and be a part of a group that is amongst the most passionate and terrific Syracuse fans. I've been seeing you guys at games. We had the great meetup in Vegas when the Orange were there a few weeks ago, and just the continuing conversations we're having as a part of our Syracuse Sports Insider community. It is awesome, and we would love for you to join and be a part of it, including being a part of the podcast and getting your questions and comments answered here on Syracuse Sports and on our Syracuse football and basketball postgame shows. Join subtext.com/Syracuse Sports. Hit that link, sign up. You can try it free for 2 weeks, by the way. Give it a shot. See what we're sending you. See what questions we can answer for you. And then it's just $3.99 a month. After that, all the latest Syracuse sports information, the latest podcasts that we do, and so much more sent right to your phone. You know what the great things about this is, and I hear this from you guys, it's not just my little sales pitch here. You cut through the clutter. You cut through social media, right? Something happens, something new, something's out there. It's right on your phone, right? Our Buffalo Bills guys do this service as well. I'm a huge Buffalo Bills fan, and I love that convenience of just getting the latest Bills news right on my phone. Don't have to seek it out. Don't have to cut through the clutter. Like, just to have it right there when something happens it's something I enjoy as a consumer of the product as well, let alone the master here, the master, who's the guy in, the ringmaster in the circus, right? But being in the middle of this great circus of Syracuse sports fans is incredible. So we'd love for you guys to be a part of the community today. Sign up at joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. That's going to do it for this episode, though, of Syracuse Sports. Thanks to Crouse Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. Thanks to you guys, as always, for listening. Make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. So when a new episode of Syracuse Sports pops up, and we do send it to our Syracuse Sports Insiders, but making sure you subscribe and follow on your favorite podcast platform ensures that when a new episode is there, you will know it and you will listen and you will watch and you will enjoy it. Thanks for hanging with us, everybody. We'll talk to you next time here. Don't forget the post-game shows to come and so much more. But enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you next time here on Syracuse Sports. Okay, Nikai Johnson, Syracuse football walk-on, and his great music. Take us out.